Hello, online world. This is Off the Record with Migs.
And Cheska, and yes, Migs, we have yet another incredible episode prepared for our viewers tonight.
And of course, as we still celebrate the championship, the victory of our very own Filipinas. We got to talk to Ina Palacios and Hailey Long last Friday. But for today, we will talk to the man behind all this. Cheska?
Yes, of course. You mentioned it. We are still on the high from the Filipinas' historic run in 2022, from qualifying for the 2023 Women's World Cup to winning their first bronze medal in the Southeast Asian Games after a 37-year podium absence, to claiming gold in front of a thunderous home crowd in the 2022 AFF Women's Championship. Tonight, we get to talk to the man at the helm, head coach of the Philippine women's national football team, Coach Alen Stajcic. Hi, Coach.
Hi, guys. How you going?
Thank you, Coach,
Good.
for
Thank
taking
you for
time
joining
off.
us.
Thank you. I know, Coach, it's your time off, but it took time for us right here on ABS-CBN Sports, on Off the Record and ABS-CBN Sports. We appreciate it, Coach Alen. And Coach, we'll just get straight right into business. What is your, I guess, overall assessment when you look back and say, how did the team perform overall for this tournament?
Yeah, look, it's obviously hard to be too critical, but that's my job, to be critical. Doesn't matter how good it gets in the short term. There's always a bigger picture, and there's lots of things that we did really well and we're improving with, and we improved significantly in the past few months. As is the process and journey of any team, there's a lot for us to work on. And my analogy after the tournament was that we climbed a small little hill, and that's Southeast Asia, and it's magnificent, and it was triumphant and exhilarating, and we all know the feeling that it gave everyone, the whole country, including the team. But ultimately, there's bigger challenges that lay ahead, and I know that we can't rest on our laurels, as we say in Australia, and you can't relax too much, because the challenges of confronting the bigger nations in Asia, the Big Five, the two Koreas, China, Japan, Australia, and also the rest of the world is a much bigger challenge, and I'm well aware of how difficult that is. So we're really proud. We think we're progressing down the right track, but definitely a lot of hard work to do in the coming months and in the coming years as well.
And of course, Coach, if we look back at everything that the Filipinas have done in just this year alone, the team was playing game after game after game, barely any time to rest. You had your work cut out for you as well when it came to rotating your players, making sure that they got ample time to rest, ample time on the field, all of that. How were you able to accomplish all of that?
Yeah, look, it's obviously a challenge. It's a challenge for every single person in our group, whether it's player or staff member, not only reviewing games, previewing the next game when there's only a 2-day turnaround. We're up to all hours reviewing and cutting up footage and ensuring that we review our previous performance. But then by the time you finish doing that, you'll already have to preview the next game and try and sort out who you're playing against, who's going to play for your team, and try and get everyone aligned as quickly as you can for that next match. So, look, there's a lot of pressure on everyone, players and staff. Players, obviously, to physically recover. But ultimately, that's our job, and we love it and we enjoy it. So it's not really work, even though you're staying up to all hours talking about the game, reviewing the game. It's actually pretty good fun. So, and in a tournament like that, whether you win or lose, you don't get a lot of time to celebrate or drown your sorrows, because you've got another game to focus on. So from that perspective, it's also good fun, but it is a challenge in terms of workload, that's for sure.
Coach Alen, when you talk about the preparations and when you talk about how big this tournament is, but you also have a short time frame. For you and your coaching staff, I know that you have your technical preparations, what to do in practice, what to work on in film, etc. But at least for you as the main guidance, everything will come from you. How do you usually prep your staff when it comes to mentally, psychologically, physically in tournaments, in these types of tournaments?
Yeah, look, you sort of hit the nail on the head inadvertently in there. You can't do the prep during the tournament. If the prep's not done beforehand, you'll always be chasing your tail in a tournament. So we didn't have time to train. We didn't have time to get aligned on the training path. You had to do it all beforehand. And we've spent, the best part of 6 or 7 months together. We had a big camp in LA. We had a big camp in Australia for 4 or 5 weeks. We spent 2 weeks 2.5 weeks in Europe before we came to the Philippines and the AFF, and I really knew that they were the crucial parts of the puzzle in terms of preparing the team. That's when you've really got free time and you've got your own time. And you know, I've often said that that time is golden in the national team. You don't really get those precious moments as a national team to be able to get together and become cohesive and become gelled and become aligned and united. And look, I think we've done a really good job with that, players and staff together, in aligning ourselves and ensuring that we used every moment of that preparation time. And ultimately the results come out on the pitch. And I think you can see that it's a pitch where it doesn't matter who comes in. And sometimes we play well and sometimes we don't play well. And sometimes different players play well and don't play well. But ultimately you can see a picture where every player knows their roles, every player knows their jobs, everyone's happy to do the job, everyone's happy to fight for each other. And they're key ingredients for success. And we've had a little bit of success, but again, I just know how much harder we have to work to make sure all those things are even more solid going forward.
Coach, I mentioned this to you the night I met you, how I watched the finals match with my former coach. And of course, she was also she was paying attention. She was like, look, there's a different coach that talks to the goalkeeper. There's a different coach that talks to this player. Can we just talk about your amazing coaching staff? Because you have Coach Nas, Coach Jimmy, you have your performance analyst, Mr. Antonich, and then Luca, and then your assistant strength and conditioning coach. You have Red, and your physios, Anna and Isabella. This full-on staff that have very specific roles, and I know that you've taken an incredibly scientific approach to the way you coach as well. Could you just describe a little bit, however much you're willing to reveal,
how do you do it?
Style. Yes.
Yeah.
Look, obviously we've got a good staff, but to be honest, we could add even more staff in to really start even giving the players even more, I guess, resources at hand. Ultimately, it's about preparing the players. So everything that we do is about giving the players, in one sense, no excuses to perform, giving them everything they need to be able to be at their peak when they enter the training, the playing pitch. But look, we've got an amazing staff. When we started, the Philippines were ranked 68th in the world. We're up to about 53. We might rise another couple of places in the next couple of months when the next rankings come out. But ultimately, for me, we've got a staff that's probably the top 5 in the world. I know the coaches that I've worked with, they've worked with me in professional women's teams, in national teams, in professional men's teams here, where we're on top of the Australian League for over a year with one of the smallest clubs. So I know they can do the job at every level, and I know their level of expertise. And not only are they expert in what they do, they love what they do, they're passionate about what they do. And ultimately, we're all aligned. Like, we meet regularly. Like, we meet a couple of times a day formally, but informally, we spend hours and hours together to make sure that we're always pushing each other, always challenging each other. I guess, one of the things that was maybe confronting for a few staff members who entered our circle was how argumentative we are. We actually argue a lot amongst ourselves, and it almost looks like it's a fight, but ultimately we're all just pushing each other, and everyone's pushing me and I'm pushing them to try and get the best out of ourselves so that we can get the best out of the team. So, whether it's the sports science part, whether it's the physio component, whether it's the recovery component, whether it's the training and planning and preparation component, they're all important in this. We brought on Stephen Antonich recently to do the video analysis, and he's added an extra cog. And for me, there's still 1 or 2 more pieces of this puzzle that we need to add in the coming months to ensure that we've really got a well-rounded staff that can support the playing group all the time.
Right. Just a follow-up on this, Coach Alen. Perhaps, at least for Filipino context, or at least in the traditional context, it's usually the head coach and the assistants assist the head coach for whatever the head coach needs or wants. But perhaps when we put it into context, it may be the progressive way or the new normal or the new way of coaching in other nations, right? But what does it take for a head coach to actually empower all their assistant coaches? And you mentioned you would have arguments, you would get into fights, but that's your way of pushing each other. Does that take a different level of leadership and mentality in coaching?
Yeah, look, I use the word fight, but I said it appears as though we're fighting, but we're not. We're pushing each other, and ultimately you have to keep. If you're in a comfort zone, you're never going to improve. And if people have good ideas and are too scared to share them, then we're not going to progress, because the situation we have in the Philippines, this team today, and the situation we had 3 months ago is totally different, and it's unique. and the situation in our team now compared to the professional men's team that we coached is totally different. The situation compared to this team and the Australian team when I coached them a few years ago is totally different. So we might have ideas, but ultimately it's about finding the right solution. And you can only find that when you really probe and push. And you don't know. You don't know. It's not an exact science. If coaching was an exact science, everyone would have the answer and everyone would be the same. But it's not like that. It's really about being flexible. It's really about ensuring that everyone in your staff uses their skills to the best they can. And again, ultimately, we're all there, everything we can possibly do to give every player every drop of our energy so that they can perform on the pitch. And, you know, I mentioned Noel Arate after one of the press conferences, but he's in charge of our set pieces. And you look at how many goals we scored from that, but that doesn't take 1 minute. That takes 4 or 5 hours per game for him to analyse every single set piece we've done, every single set piece that an opponent's done, so that when we get to game day, we can present, 10 or 20 minutes to the players and they're ready to go. But that 10 or 20 minutes takes hours and hours and hours. So when I talk about the workload that we all have, no one gets to see all the behind the scenes stuff, but rest assured that when it's a tournament like this, you're working 24/7 and you can see the results. You can see the results of a staff that's aligned. You can see the results of a playing group that's aligned, and we're all working hard for each other. And if you keep doing that, ultimately you keep getting results on the pitch, and that builds even more confidence, belief, and empowerment throughout the whole squad.
I'm so glad that you brought up the set pieces, coach, because we saw this in 2018. England alone set a record for most set piece goals since 1966. In that particular World Cup, 70 set piece goals in the tournament, about 43% of all goals scored. And then we look at the Filipinas. You have Tane, you have Sarah with the corner kicks. And we spoke to Mariela about this, just feeling the anticipation from the entire stadium that when there was a set piece happening for the Filipinas, people knew that it would convert. What turned the focus to these set pieces? Why the emphasis on the set pieces?
Well, there's an emphasis on everything, and set pieces are an important part of the game. So, traditionally they account for 25 to 33% of goals in football, depending on the tournament. And if you punch above that, then that's even better. But ultimately, they're an important facet of the game. So we don't focus on set pieces. We focus on everything. We focus on our attack. We focus on our defence. We focus on our transition moments. We focus on every little detail that we can. And we are very detailed in everything that we do. And set pieces are just one part of that, but they're an important part. And it's the only time in the game where the ball's still and you can really set something up rather than the game that's free-flowing and players are moving constantly. So, it is something we take a lot of pride in, and the players have shown that they're willing to execute things, they're willing to try things. And when you're willing to try, and sometimes they don't work, but just to have that bravery and courage to try different things is also really important. And then when you get success, again, I mentioned it a second ago, you just get that little bit more confidence, belief in the whole process. And again, we're heading down the right track there, but to be able to score set pieces against North American opponents and European teams is going to be a whole new ball game. So we're going to have to up our game even in that respect as well.
All right. Thank you so much, Coach. And now we're going to move on to our next segment. This one is called Fast Break. This is just for our viewers to get to know Coach Alen a little bit better.
Yeah.
So, we're going to throw out a question, and then whatever the first answer is that pops into your head, go right ahead, Coach.
Dangerous game.
It's not the first time you've heard that, but don't worry.
Don't worry. This is very fun, casual.
Yeah, fun and
all right,
casual.
Coach Alen.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Let's get it on.
Right.
Coach.
All right, Coach Alen. Most important practice drill.
The game at the end of the session.
Okay. If you weren't a football coach, what would you be?
Anything in sport. I was a teacher in a former life, but anything involved in sport for sure.
Okay, and we know that you used to play, Coach. So, footballer, past or present, that you would love to play against?
Look, my idol was always Diego Maradona. I think he's the best.
Of course.
Oh.
And Ronaldo aren't far away, and maybe even better in some respects. But throughout that generation and what he did with the rules that were in place at the time, and and doing it almost single-handedly. He really was. He really was a genius.
Yes. May you rest in peace. Okay. And of course, manager, past or present, that you would love to face off with.
Oh wow, that's a big one. Look, I'm a Liverpool fan in England, and having suffered for 30 years, 1990 to 2021, I like what Klopp has done with the team, and not just the winning, and not just the way they play, but you can see the philosophy and the methodology around the team and the way it's progressed over 4 or 5 years. And they just play with so much energy and so much passion and fight for each other and run so hard for each other. Win, lose or draw, they're always an exciting team to watch. So I really love Klopp, and even I'm a bit biased because I'm a Liverpool fan. I think he's really regenerated a massive, massive brand in world football.
Coach Alen, was there a certain hype song for the team this tournament?
Not really. That song, Pulso, obviously came up during warm-ups and stuff, which I like. But yeah, look, the players listen to their own music. Serena Bolden's our DJ, I think, in the team, and she listens to a whole range of stuff, from some oldies, but also some modern stuff. But I'll leave that to her. She's the expert in that department.
Okay. Game day ritual for you, Coach, and maybe coaching staff, if there's any.
No, look, I don't think there's anything special. We try and relax, and again, I touched on it a little bit earlier. If all the preparation needs to have been done beforehand. I don't believe in magic on game day. I don't believe in magical halftime team talks. Everything has to have been done before that day. I think that day, most importantly, is for the players to enjoy, to relax, and to make sure they can perform. So we try not to interfere with the players too much on game day, and really let them focus on their performances coming up.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Next.
Check. Go.
Current footballer you love watching.
I'll go Mo Salah again. Has to be Liverpool.
Okay.
Okay. Coach Alen, dream opponent for a friendly before the World Cup.
That's a good one as well. I've just been watching the Euros since I've come home in the last couple of days. I'd love to play against France, or possibly even the USA, just to really, really test ourselves and see what it's like to play against some of the best teams in the world.
Okay. And then Coach Alen, I think you've qualified for the World Cup 3 times already. So this is honestly a little up in the air for us. Most memorable career highlight?
5 days ago. Easy.
Oh.
Ooh.
Easy question.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice. It's got to be the sweetest.
Speaking of, I love being the underdog. So when you win, when you're the underdog, it's even more special.
Right. Speaking of sweet, Coach, a little bit something off topic. What is your guilty pleasure food?
Anything with sugar in it, basically.
So we're in that line of sweet. Okay.
Yeah, that's really my poison. Yeah, I don't really drink much. I don't really do anything that's too naughty, but I do eat a lot of bad food. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
And here we go for our final fast break question. Coach Alen, what is your ultimate career goal?
That's a good one. To win the World Cup, to win an Olympic medal, to be the champion of the continent is really big. So anything that's really big, I just, play sport to win, and you want to be a winner. So to be able to bring a group through to win something is really special.
All right. Thank you so much, Coach Alen, for joining us here on our interview for Off the Record. But last couple of questions before we wrap this up. I know you're in Australia right now. Some preparations. What you're doing now, maybe some off time or preparing for your next tournament. So what's that like, Coach?
Yeah, look, off time, but getting back with the family and driving the kids around, it's a full-time job. But, as I said, I've been watching the Euros and watching a little bit of the Copa America, because ultimately they're going to be our opponents in the World Cup. So I've been watching a little bit of everything. Even the African tournament's been on, and watched a little bit of Morocco and South Africa the other day. And there was a packed stadium in Morocco watching women's football as well. It looked like 50 or 60,000 people in Morocco to watch that final. So yeah, always just keeping tabs on who's playing and what they're doing, and ensuring that we're up to date when the draw comes out, we're ready to go.
All right. Coach Alen, before we let you go, of course, there were So many people who are just celebrating along with you and the Filipinas. Do you have any message for all the football fans, for the kids out there who watched this and want to follow in the Filipinas' footsteps as well?
Yeah, obviously for us, when you're in that little bubble, you're very selfish about your time and wanting to make sure you perform. But the big picture of football, and a lot like it is here in Australia, we just, we're a minor sport. We're not the biggest sport. So we know how hard it is to get everyone's attention, the media's attention, to get young people's attention, to get corporate support. So hopefully a tournament like that is inspiring for young kids to want to play football. I think I've said this a few times in the media, it's the world game for a reason. 90% of countries, it's virtually a religion, the way people love the game, because anyone can play. And it doesn't matter about your features. Again, it doesn't matter about your background, your culture, your religion. It doesn't matter about your physical stature. Lionel Messi and Maradona are two of the shortest people in the whole world, and yet the two best players almost of all time in men's football. So none of those characteristics matter, and that's why you just need a ball and 2 people or 4 people and you can play. So that's why it's universal, and everyone loves the game, and hopefully more people in the Philippines enjoy embracing the game, either as fans, as players, as coaches, as administrators, and we can really grow the game, because apart from physical, it has so many other benefits. You're mixing with friends, it's social, you've got so many health benefits. It really is, I'm biased, but it's the best sport in the world.
All right. Wow.
Thank you so much, Coach Alen. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us on the show, and we cannot wait to see the Filipinas in the World Cup.
All right, there you have it. Coach Alen Stajcic, thank you so much for joining us here on Off the Record on ABS-CBN Sports. For your guest requests, please do follow and like OTR Migs Cheska on Facebook and Instagram, and please do follow ABS-CBN Sports for your sports updates on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. So there you have it. This has been Off the Record with Migs
and Cheska, and we will see you guys in the next
episode. Thanks, Coach. Filipinas.
Pleasure.
Malupet. Thank you, Coach.